Garrett's staging area was 2 hours southeast. Temporary structures, supply caches. Enough people to matter, not enough to be a fortress. The kind of target that rewarded speed. They moved in 2 groups. Kala took the eastern approach, with 6 people. Her infiltration specialists and 3 of Rustbrook's steadiest fighters. Silas took the western approach with the rest. Trapper ran the perimeter, keeping the exits covered. Harland was with Silas. His arm had healed, mostly. Better than anyone had expected after the mech outpost expedition. It still hurt when he pushed it too hard. He didn't mention it. They reached the staging area as the first light came up. Silas wiped sweat from his eyes with the back of his hand. The morning was still cool. His body hadn't noticed. It was smaller than Silas had expected. Not a weakness. Garrett had always been efficient, had never wasted resources on appearance, but it meant fewer people than the patterns had suggested. Either Garrett had moved personnel, or he had expected company. It didn't really matter. Kala's signal came at the agreed time, 3 short, 1 long, the sequence that meant in position and the approach is clear. Silas looked at his group. They looked back at him. He moved. The fighting was fast and close, and entirely unlike defending. Defending was patience. This wasn't. Everything moved at once. Targets appeared and disappeared. Decisions lasted seconds, sometimes less. Kala's group hit the eastern side at the same moment Silas hit the west, and the staging area folded in on itself. Not panicked. Fraction X didn't panic. The defenders suddenly uncertain which direction to face. Garrett appeared at the center of it. Not fighting. Organizing. Garrett was already moving through the camp, redirecting people, closing gaps, pulling scattered groups toward cover. The first shock of the attack had barely passed, and he was already rebuilding order from it. Silas watched him do it. Garrett looked up. Their eyes met across the camp. Silas noticed the small scar beside Garrett's left eye. He had given him that scar at the second battle. No surprise. Almost a greeting. Then Garrett turned and shouted another order. He respected that. He moved toward him anyway. The mech appeared at minute 7. Not from the tree line, from the ground, rising out of a concealed bay that none of Elmet's maps had shown. It was smaller than the one from the second battle. Faster. Its targeting arrays were active before it was fully upright, cycling through the positions of everyone in the staging area. Harland was already moving. He had the module out of the case before Silas reached him. His hands on the interface. "Give me 30 seconds," Harland said. The mech turned toward them. 20 meters. 15. Its targeting array settled. On Silas. Not on Harland and the module, not on the nearest threat. On Silas specifically. For a moment, he became aware of every bruise from the past week. His body suddenly interested in survival. Harland's hands moved on the module. 10 meters. Movement broke from the eastern side of the staging area. One of Fraction X's fighters, seeing Harland kneeling with the module and understanding immediately what mattered. He was fast. Too fast. Silas started toward them and knew instantly he would not reach them in time. Movement flashed in from the side. Yerrick. Not cleanly. Not skillfully. He hit the man at full speed from the side with all the uncontrolled force of someone acting before thought could catch up, the impact sending both of them crashing into the mud beside the module. The rifle went off once. Wild. Yerrick was here. Of course he was. Silas never knew whether the shot hit anything, but it bought seconds. Harland never looked up. His hands kept moving across the interface, even while Jarek and the Fraction X fighter rolled half a meter away from him in the dirt. The fighter got a knife halfway free before Jarek slammed the rifle stock into his face. Then Trapper was there. One shot. Finished. "Harland," Silas said. 20 seconds, Harland said. His voice was completely level. His hands were not shaking. The mech stopped. Not because of the module. Harland's hands were still moving, the interface still cycling, the override not yet established. It stopped on its own. Its targeting array still fixed on Silas. Its weapon system still active. Just still. Silas looked at it. It looked at him. The hum came. Not from behind his eyes, from everywhere. From the air itself. The resonance of something that had been distant for a long time and was now simply here. He felt something move in his chest. Not fear. Recognition. The mech's targeting array shifted. A small movement. Precise. Deliberate. Not toward a target. Away from one. It turned, degree by degree, until it was facing the eastern side of the staging area, toward Fraction X's consolidated position, toward Garrett. It fired once. Not at Garrett, above him, into the structure behind the position, a controlled shot that brought the roof down without touching the people beneath it. Fraction X broke. Not all of them. Garrett held some of them, his voice carrying across the noise, steady and controlled even now. Then the mech turned back to Silas. Looked at him. The hum held for 3 more seconds. Then it stepped back. 1 step. 2. It lowered itself back into the concealed bay. The door closed over it. Gone. The staging area was quiet. Only then did he realize his hands hurt. The skin across his knuckles was split. He couldn't remember when it happened. Harland was standing beside Silas with the module in his hands, and his mouth slightly open, and his eyes on the place where the mech had been. "I didn't do that," he said. "No," Silas said. "The module wasn't... I hadn't established the link yet. It wasn't responding to the module." "No," Silas said. Harland looked at him. Silas looked at the closed bay door. He had no explanation for what had just happened. Across the staging area, Kala was moving through the aftermath, her people fanning out, doing what needed doing. She looked at Silas across the distance. Her face was doing the thing it rarely did, the controlled expression slipping for just a moment before she put it back. She had seen it. She had seen what happened, and she had understood what it meant. And she had put her face back together in about 2 seconds, because that was what Kala did. But she had seen it. Trapper appeared at Silas's shoulder. He looked at the bay door, at the module in Harland's hands, at Silas. He said nothing. Jarek was sitting against one of the collapsed support beams a few meters away, with blood running down the side of his face from somewhere above the eye. He looked pale, shocked more than hurt. Harland crossed to him slowly, still holding the module. Looked down at him for a moment. "That was stupid," Harland said. A pause. "Good," he added, "but stupid. Particularly good for someone who was supposed to stay behind." Jarek laughed once, mostly because he was still alive. That was almost worse than anything he could have said. Garrett was gone. Not dead. Gone. Silas had known he wouldn't be there when they looked. The man was too careful to be caught in a collapsing position. He had moved when the mech fired. They found the staging area's supply caches, took what was useful, burned what wasn't. Kala ran it efficiently. Tomas cataloged. Harlan stood to the side and looked at the module, revising everything he thought he understood about what he had built. Silas stood at the edge of the staging area and looked southeast, toward White City. The hum was different now. Not stronger, not weaker, different in quality. The way a sound was different after the thing making it had moved closer, more present. The feeling of being listened to had shifted into something else, like being answered. Orianthe appeared beside him. He hadn't seen her move. She had been at the back of the group the entire operation, present, watching, not fighting. Now she was here. He looked at her. Her face was the most open he had ever seen it. Not happy, not quite. The expression of someone who had been bracing for one outcome for a very long time and had just watched something different happen and hadn't yet worked out what to do with that. "It recognized you," she said. "Yes," he said. "Not the module, not the override." She paused. "You." "Yes." She was quiet for a moment. "The others," she said carefully. "The ones before you. The ones Otek marked." She stopped, started again. "They were afraid of it, when it came close, when the hum was strong." She looked at him. "You weren't." Silas thought about the moment. The mech 10 meters away. The hum everywhere. The thing in his chest that had moved. "No," he said. "Why not?" she said. He looked at White City's direction on the horizon. "Because it felt like something I recognized," he said. "Not something coming at me." He paused. "Something coming back." Orianthe looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at the horizon. Whatever she was thinking, she kept it. But her hands, Silas noticed, had stopped being still. They were shaking slightly. Not from fear. From something older than fear. Something that might have been called relief. They came back to Rustbrook in the early afternoon. Dust coated their clothes. Smoke clung to them. Nobody looked like they had won anything. The gate opened before they reached it. Someone on the watchtower had seen them coming, had counted them, had done the arithmetic of 14 out and 14 back. Miriam was there. She gave Silas the full inventory. Nothing skipped. She took in what had happened without being told, finding it in the way they moved, in Harlan's hands on the module, in Orianthe's face. "Garrett," she said. "Gone," Silas said. "Not finished. Gone." Miriam nodded once. "And the rest?" she said. Silas looked at her. "Tonight," he said. "I'll tell you everything tonight." Miriam held his gaze for a moment. Then she stepped aside and let them through. Silas walked into Rustbrook, carrying the weight of a victory that had answered one question and opened 3 more. Garrett was broken as a force. The mech had responded to him. And somewhere southeast, patient and present, and now he was certain, fully aware of what had just happened, White City was doing what it always did. Listening. Recalculating. The next move was his. He went to find Orianthe.